Hi everyone, my name is Victoria Ahrens and I am the course leader for the MA in photography at London College of Communication, University of the Arts, London. Lovely to meet you. I want to introduce you to the MA photography course and all of the units and what you can expect from joining this course. So the MA photography at LCC is focused on developing innovative, creative practitioners who are professionally prepared to have sustainable careers in photography, publishing, photo publishing, or photo curating on graduating from the course. Students who join us on the course engage with contemporary debates in relation to photography. This year's course included questions around why artists make art in the first place. Is it for personal reasons, for social activism, for looking at theoretical notions of identity, for example? We also looked at ideas around photography and scale, particularly the ideas around photography in space and how the photographic image lives, is disseminated, and can be produced and created within different kind of spaces, whether those are physical, site-specific, or whether they are more virtual spaces. We looked at ideas around photography, representation, and activism, looking at decolonizing ideas around how we represent others and how the subject of photography is able to participate and take back their own gaze, which is their own way of being represented. Also looking at notions of intimacy and the self, photography and the Anthropocene, which is to say photography within ideas around the climate crisis and how sustainable practices can really push photography forwards within this kind of era that we're living in, which is called the Anthropocene. The accelerated image, or the idea that we are totally surrounded by digital images that are bombarding us on a constant basis, and how the idea of AI, 3D, virtual spaces, etc., are changing the landscape of photography today. And also, last but not leastly, but ideas around the archive and photography. So, how we encounter photography of the past, historical photographs, for example, how we conserve photographs today, and how these works can become part of your own personal archive, or how you can do research within a particular archive to create a body of work. The MA will support you to engage with the ways in which photographic images are created, disseminated, in other words, distributed, seen, received, studied, obviously, and understood. And the unique part of this course is that we get you to do a unit in the first semester, first term, where you look at more experimental practices and you get to test and try out lots of different ways of producing and thinking about photographs. But from the second term onwards, you can then almost tailor make your degree, your MA, your master's, because you can choose from one of three pathways. One is called expanded practices, and I'll go through what that is in just a moment. The other one is photo curation, and the third one is photo publishing. And this can lead into the work that you do in your second term in one of these three areas, can also lead to the kind of work that you might produce for your major project. I'll explain this in a little bit more detail. Expanded practices is really looking at the development of a contemporary critical photographic art practice through research into other artists, research into ideas and concepts, but also through extensive visual experimentation. So really expanding what a photograph can be, both from looking at it as a still image, as a series, as a narrative, its narrative possibilities, but also looking at it through moving image. So whether that is video, small video pieces that you make, whether those are projections of still or moving images into space or onto other materials, whether we're looking at collage or photo montage, or more virtual spaces like using CGI or 3D scanning, photogrammetry or AI, or something a little bit more physical, like the photographic image as a sculpture or as a multimedia installation. It's a really exciting pathway and gives you the opportunity to create work for installation in various contexts. So this could be installations which ultimately will develop into the kind of work that you might show in a gallery space, in an institutional space, maybe at a photography festival across, internationally or in the UK. But also could be work that we're going to test and work out in virtual spaces using augmented and virtual reality. We're also looking at the study of the impact of the increase in photographic images on dissemination, so distribution, on use, so how do we receive and use images, and on our understanding and on ideas. So, in other words, the creation of new theoretical frameworks. Theory just stands for what other academic voices or other experts in their fields have written about that subject. So, we're talking about ideas that are being generated by artists, by photographers in all sorts of different genres, and also within galleries and institutions, and within writing, within podcasts, etc. So we're looking to understand the concepts of the expanded field of photography that encompasses the way photography works across a really broad-based set of media or spaces or even through the screen. Another pathway that you could decide to take is a publishing pathway. And this gives you the opportunity, for example, to publish your own work. That could be a photo book, that could be a zine or a publication, an edition of work. You could also work together with other students from that pathway or other practitioners on the MA or outside of the MA, actually, or even with archives to produce a set of publications, again, zines or photo books that are collaborative. You will have access to specialist printmaking facilities in order to be able to use things like screen print, letterpress, but also print finishing areas, which are really important when you are finalizing a publication of some kind and thinking about the materials that you're going to be using, for example, for the cover, how you're going to put your book or book piece together. And there are plenty of opportunities for collaboration outside of the course. What's really nice about the print finishing area is that one of our alumni, Will Adams, who graduated a few years ago, is now working in that print finishing area. So he totally understands all of the needs of the students on the MA photography course and is able to help very personally and very closely with the development of a photo book project with you. One of the things that the students did last year, and we will probably do again this year, is that we participated with a bookstall where we sold books made by the students or publications as part of the fantastic photography festival in Peckham called Peckham 24, set up by Viv Gamble. And it was called the Bigger Book Fair, and it was really successful. And it was just brilliant. And the students were able to raise funds as well for editioning of their books for their major project, which was brilliant. The other thing that you need to think about within ideas around the publishing pathway is that it is an opportunity for you to study different strategies. So strategies for digital publishing, which is, very contemporary at the moment, but also physical publishing in expanded photographic practices. So it allows you to use the images that you're producing on the course and create a photo book around them. It will help you develop your publishing skills across various mediums. So we will look at not only photo books, but also zine making, maybe different types of magazines, but also on social media. And you will eventually develop your own photo book or publication that could work as a stand-alone piece, or you could make an edition, let's say of 10, a small edition or a larger edition. And this could be part also, this book, of a wider installation piece that you use for your final major project and across your photographic practice. The third pathway that you could choose in your second term and going forward after that is the curating pathway, where you will study photographic curation, again in the expanded field, because that is what we're looking at in contemporary photography, and how curation of photographs takes place in museums, in galleries, in different types of freelance curation situations, pop-up shows, festivals, etc. And what you'll be doing in that pathway is developing a self-reflective practice informed by what we call decolonizing initiatives. So looking at really wide-ranging texts and methods and approaches to curating and writing curatorial texts and wall texts, and how different approaches to curating can really expand the way that we look at photography today. And this will be enhanced through actually participating in exhibitions yourself, but also event staging and assisting in curatorial projects that we will be developing across the course. It'll give you an opportunity to work with students on other pathways. So you could work with some of the publishing students to curate their books in a reading room, for example, and design that. You could be working with some of the expanded practices students to help with the installation of their practice and to think about wall texts or how those might operate together in space with other students' work. It could be that you start working with external practitioners that you meet through the collaborative unit or that you meet as you go through your course, because we have a lot of ties with industry. Or with existing archives. So some of the collaborations that we've done through the curating pathway have been with organizations such as Turner Contemporary, the Photographers Gallery, Autograph ABP, the Stanley Kubrick Archive, which is situated at LCC, and the wider UAL Art Collection. In terms of who is teaching on the course, I think it's worth having a look at some examples and the kind of team who will be teaching you, and to know that all of the MA photography course is taught by an impressive community of academics, technical experts, and leading specialist practitioners. We have a diverse set of interests, each one of us, and specialisms in photography, which lead to a range of exciting workshops and practices being developed on the course. And that really comes through when you come to the final degree show that took place in November, and you can see all kinds of different types of work at play there. So this is our current team. We have Daniel Alexander, who is the program director for all three MA photography and BA photography courses. We have a reader in photography, Janelle and Al Annie, and a brilliant, brilliant artist whose practice is very much involved with moving image. And still images. That's me, Victoria Ahrens, and I also supervise PhDs and I teach into the course as well, particularly around sustainable practices and large-scale installations. We have Natasha Caruana, whose work has been shown internationally and really works with ideas around intimacy, really kind of new technologies, and thinking through identity and the self. We have Sharon Young, Dr. Sharon Young, who's one of our academics who works with us on the Contemporary Debates course. We have Claire Hiscock, who is the language development tutor. We have Max Colson, who is an artist and practitioner who teaches very much into new technologies, but also is brilliant at supporting students with one-to-one tutorials and group tutorials and crits. We have Vivian Gamble, who set up and co-runs Peckham 24 and is now the director of Stills Gallery in Edinburgh. We have Renee Musai, who is a brilliant writer and academic, particularly looking at feminist and decolonizing archives. We have Professor Val Williams, who is a curator with more than 30 years' experience curating projects at Tate Britain, at the Turner Contemporary in Margate, and loads of other institutions around, the V&A, for example, etc. Yining He, who is a fantastic contemporary Chinese curator, and Dr. Helena Walsh, who is a performance artist, but also helps and supports students with academic support. So this is an installation of Natasha Caruana's work that opened a couple of years ago at the British Photography Centre in central London, part of the Haim collection. And her sort of expertise is in installation practices, new technologies, the still image, photographic series, and she's also brilliant at professional practice, what to do with photography beyond the course. This is one of my own pieces, and I specialize in sculptural and multimedia photographic installation practice, sustainable photographic processes, bookmaking, and I also do PhD supervision. Janan Al-Ani, who is a reader in photography at the university, and her expertise is in moving image, projection, multimedia installation, and sound. She creates large-scale prints, drone images, and aerial photography. And all of us, are practicing artists and curators with a wealth of experience and are closely connected to academic research and industry expertise, which I think is really important. It's really relevant for all of the students on the course. Daniel Alexander, our program director, also teaches onto the course, and he runs the Publishing Pathway, and his expertise is in photo books and publishing, as he set up his own press called Otterby Press, and has a number of connections with the photo book publishing industry and publishing houses with his own practice. He also has expertise in expanded practices in terms of scanning, photogrammetry, and CGI. And we have a fantastic support from the Creative Computing Suite and the Digital Suite at the university, who support our students to create the most incredible virtual and physical installation pieces. In expanded practices also, we have Max Coulson, whose expertise is to creating cyanotypes, salt prints, and photo etchings, but also other alternative photographic practices. He also works with the networked image and artificial intelligence, so AI image making and Midjourney. We have Professor Val Williams, who, as I said, has more than 30 years of experience in curating photographs. We have Viv Gamble in the Curating Pathway from Scene 15 Gallery. She also was the co-founder of Peckham 24 and is now the director of Stills Gallery in Edinburgh. And Renee Musai, with 20 years experience curating at Autograph ABP, writing monographs, decolonial practices in the museum, and with close collaborations with artists such as Zanele Maholi, who you might have seen because their exhibition is on at the Tate Modern right now. We also do these curating projects with Turner Contemporary and Margate, among other spaces. We also work with Karen McQuaid, who is a curator and gallerist at the Photographers Gallery, and with Susanna Brown, who used to and still does often curate and write books for the V&A, and they both work closely with our students. So what does postgraduate level study entail? It means 9 to 12 hours of teaching teacher contact per week. So that's 2 to 2.5 days a week. So for example, in your first term, you would come in on a Tuesday all day and work with experimental photographic practices unit and get to know the other students and staff and experiment on a technical level and a conceptual level. And then on Wednesdays, you would have a contemporary photographic debates session where you would talk about and discuss and present ideas around the theory of photography. In other words, voices, academics, writers, podcasters who are discussing ideas around photography. And then in your second term, you might come in on a Monday to do expanded practices. You might want to also attend, which you can, some of the other pathways, even though that isn't the one that will form the basis of your outcome, but you can attend some of the publishing sessions. You can attend some of the curating sessions if you're interested in those as well. And then again on Wednesdays, you will have the collaborative unit. Thursdays and Fridays become part of your independent study. We have an approximately 35 students on the course. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less. And there is a really lovely balance of theory and practice. So these are the main units on the course. The first unit is called Experimental Photography Practices. So highly experimental, trying everything and anything out, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And running alongside that, you will be studying the Contemporary Photographic Debates unit, which is lectures and seminars based around ideas in photographic practice and theory. Then in your second term, you will choose a pathway option between curating, publishing, and expanded practices. And you will do your collaborative unit, which is a unit that you share with the whole photography program. So you will be working with MA students from photojournalism and MA students from commercial photography for this, working on different public-facing projects, which I'll explain a bit in a minute. And you will then, in your summer term, you will start your research project, which is like a dissertation or a film project, and your major project, which will take you right up to the end of the course in November when you have your final degree show. So this is more or less what it looks like. So you have the 2 units in the first term, the 2 units in the second term, depending on your pathway, the 2 units in the third term, the summer term, and then one of those units, the major project, spans the whole of the summer term as well as the last 6 weeks when you come back in the autumn term for the end of the 15-month course, working your way towards the final degree show. So in units 1 and 2, you develop introductory written practice-based work. You will go on to develop a project across the 3 units. You have your pathway option, which is number 4, your research project, and then your major project. The collaborative unit is a unit that the whole university does in different ways. And what we do is we collaborate between all the courses on the photography program. So that's really exciting because you get to meet people from the other courses and you get to work with them, and you can each share your expertise from each of those courses, which is brilliant. So it will introduce you, excuse me, to ways of working together on a number of public-facing projects. For example, this year we worked with UNESCO on their Ocean Decade project. That was absolutely brilliant, with loads of public-facing outcomes. We worked with the Arab Image Foundation on an archival project with them, which is absolutely fantastic as well, with D&AD on commercial projects, and with a local boxing club that provides educational sessions for those who have been excluded. You work with students across the photography program, as I've said. So what does that actually mean? MA photojournalism and MA commercial photography. So you'll meet students from those courses and work in small groups with them. But you might also work with other collaborations across the university. So for example, this year we're going to be working with sound arts to create a really interesting project around sound. You have a set of introductory lectures to help you understand what collaboration is and how different artists use collaboration in their practice, and how then you can put those ideas into practice, and seminar sessions to discuss these, followed by the development of a group project in small groups, usually about 4 or 5 students. And this all culminates at the end of term in the spring, at the end of the spring term, so the second term, in about March, in a public-facing exhibition at the Copeland Gallery in Peckham, which you can see in the image. The collaborative unit is so brilliant because all the skills that you learn on this unit will serve you for your professional practice when you finish your course. It's an essential part of understanding how to work as a professional photographer, to establish public-facing experiences and skills that will serve you well for your CV, for example. It provides also access to a wider community of photographers and students that you will get to know and work with, and allows you to bring your unique voice and your experiences to the collaboration. So how do we teach and how do you learn on the course? We do this through lecture series on Wednesday mornings and Wednesday afternoons. We do technical and physical and kinetic workshops, sometimes in the classroom, sometimes in the technical areas. We get together in small group seminars and discuss ideas. We do group tutorials. We do loads of study visits. So we go and see residencies and exhibitions and go to different places to understand how photography is used, like archives. We have guest lecturers who come in and visiting artists who will tell you about their practice and how they go about making work. We do the collaborative projects, and we have other collaborative projects across the whole course. And of course, through internal exhibitions at LCC and external exhibitions that are public facing. So these are just another example of one of our study visits to a gallery with Professor Val Williams. Facilities. So we have amazing facilities at LCC. We have an incredible 3D workshop, which lots of the photography students make installation pieces in, or part of installation pieces in. We have an incredible creative technology lab, and we work quite closely with them to help you with programming, if that's what you're interested in, with projection mapping, if you're interested in projecting onto certain objects, etc. They're amazing. We have a canteen, which is great for meeting, for having your lunch, for chatting in groups. The Typo Cafe as well, which is a smaller cafe underneath. We've got the college shop, so if you need any materials immediately, pens, paper, film roll, USBs, anything that is related that you might need on the course, you can buy it in the college shop at a cheaper price than you would if you were buying it outside of the college. We've got the digital space, which you can see here in the image, where you can go and upskill yourself on different programs like Blender or Photoshop or Lightroom. We've got gallery spaces that we use as part of our interim exhibition halfway through the course, but also at the end of the course, of course, for our final degree show. We've got the kit room where you can borrow all kinds of, photographic equipment, laptops, lighting equipment, etc., sound equipment. Our library services, and of course, by being a student at LCC, it gives you access to libraries across the whole of University of the Arts London, so at CSM, at Camberwell, at London College of Fashion, at Chelsea, etc., who all have specialist areas, so it might be worth going to visit those as well and using their services. Bookbinding, which is obviously key if you're interested in publishing, and printmaking, which is lots of our students use as well. We have specialist photography facilities. So we have an analog, black and white, and color darkrooms, which are exclusively for the photography program. We have digital C-type printing. We have inkjet printing. We have studios with continuous and flash lighting, as you can see here on the left. And we have negative scanners that you can use. There's loads of other things as well. And now I'm just going to show you a series of images from alumni or students who have graduated from the course, and some of the work, really innovative work that they have come up with for their final degree show. So this was a student called Chao Zhe An, and this piece, a series of images that I'll show you now, is called Folded Memories. They were looking at ideas around his childhood and memorializing that idea of making, little paper aeroplanes. But instead of just making paper aeroplanes, he made them out of photographic paper, which he exposed and developed in light. So they became these kind of photographic objects that also became part of an installation piece. Very beautiful as single images, as abstract images, but also as these image objects, these paper aeroplanes. He installed it in this way in his final degree show, and it was a really successful piece. Then we had a really fantastic student called Hung Ching Yang, or Fion. She was from Hong Kong, and her work was really looking at sort of folklore tales or folk tales and myths that she grew up with, that her parents and her grandparents, stories that she would be told as a child and how those would be reinterpreted in a contemporary context. It was quite a critical a critique of these myths and folklore tales, and a critique of the place of women in society, and creating these enormous installation pieces where she would create this is all physically done. All of these pieces were placed onto the walls, and then she photographs herself in these kind of almost surreal, strange self-portraits that are referring and referencing these different folk tales, which you pick up on what they are through her photo book that she made that explained all of the tales quite clearly, tales around repetition and sort of moral ideas, moral codes to follow. So this was her photo book that she created, that she handmade. Every bit of it was handmade by her, and with text and images. And she was very successful at the end of her course. She was chosen for Peckham 24 and had a solo exhibition at the South London Gallery immediately following her graduation, which was really brilliant. Then we have another one of our students who is currently starting a PhD now, having completed her work 2 years ago. And she also won the Mead Scholarship, which is something that you can apply to at the end of your course. And she developed a project. She was originally from Siberia in Russia, and was looking at ideas of the archive and identity, and looking at her own family archive, but also in relation to the wider archives of early early communities that lived in Siberia, and that she belonged to. And she also created a series of images, but also a beautiful, beautiful handmade book. And this was part of her installation. So partly archival imagery, partly her own photographic imagery. Will Adams, who was the student that I said who was working in print finishing and who's super helpful as an alumni of the course, he's now working at the university. But his project was all around the idea of GANs, so images that were produced online through AI and through virtual reality. And they were looking at he was creating these really complex collages of all of this kind of drone imagery from what at the time was war imagery at the start of the Ukraine war, and looking at CCTV camera footage that's all accessible, publicly accessible online. And he was turning that into his own interpretation of how distant we are from these particular images and what they mean today. So he produced this enormous piece. It was about 5 meters long that he hung in the installation as an installation, together with these beautiful books which he produced, photo books of these CCTV footage and this drone imagery. We had a student who's just graduated this year, Farhad Yasavoli, from Iran. And his work is looking at this idea of the family archive and memory, and using technologies to kind of absent the person in the image. So creating these ghost-like or spectral figures that became a large-scale corner installation in the final degree show. Very, very beautiful work, and very political and very interesting work about absence and presence within a particular family and country context. Georgios Chatsakis, he's from Greece and but lives in London, of course, and has been and is interested in walking in the landscape and taking medium format photographs of extraordinary landscapes, so hugely large scale landscapes, which he then turns into these fragmented, large scale installations, which are hung in the space. This is about 3 meters by about 2.5 meters. So it's really, really huge. You can probably see each of the fragments is an A4 piece that has been set together. And then he turned also this project into a beautiful handmade book piece, which he editioned an edition of 100, and that was hand stitched and placed on sustainable photographic paper. Very, very beautiful piece as well. It's called To Weather the Storm. So in terms of your applications, what do you need to do? You will need to fill in all the forms online, including your personal details, your full name, date of birth, nationality, permanent address, and your English language level. You will need to put in your current and or previous education and qualification details. Also, and this could be very helpful for those of you who have graduated a while ago and would like to, because we always have lots of different age ranges on the course, which is really fantastic. So any prior experience or learning in a professional capacity that you might have is always useful for us to know about. Any employment history, a kind of CV if you have one, a personal statement, and that is really important for you to discuss why you want to join the course and what is it that you think you can bring to the course. A portfolio of images, at least 2 to 3 projects, explaining the rationale behind it and your research and development of that project. A project proposal, actually, that needs to come off there. In fact, we don't do project proposals. You will develop your project proposal when you start the course, in fact. But we do ask you to do this, which is a video task where you identify one project from your portfolio which challenged you and your understanding of photography, and you explain how this experience has inspired you to apply to the MA Photography course at LCC. For more information on making an application, and particularly your personal statement and portfolio advice, visit the course page and look under how to apply. I've just included a couple more slides where I've just said, this is what we're looking for in your portfolio submission. So it's a collection of work showing how your creativity has developed, how your ability to work, your ability to work with different materials, themes and techniques, as well as how you research, develop and plan your ideas. You will need to include 2 to 3 projects with reflective paragraphs, in other words, little bits of text explaining the project and its development, and with clear images of the final outcome, if it's a series or a kind of installation shot, or maybe individual close-up details of each image. Or it could be that you've made a publication or a photo book, so show us each of those pages of the photo book. Or you could be making a video piece, make sure we have a link so that we can watch the video piece embedded. This should show your ability to work with different materials, themes and techniques, as well as how you go about researching, developing and planning your ideas. And in your video task, as I said, we'd like you to identify one project that you have included in your portfolio, which has challenged you and your understanding of photography. Explain how this experience has inspired you to apply to the MA Photography at LCC. It might be helpful also for us on the MA Photography to maybe think about which pathway you are contemplating at the moment. As for your personal statement, we want you to think about these elements when you're writing it. Why have you chosen this course? What excites you about the subject, so about the photography? How does your previous or current study relate to the course? Don't worry, we have lots of students who haven't actually studied photography per se before. They did a degree in graphic design or they did a degree in something else. We really embrace all of your personal experiences and we'd love you to apply anyway and show us how photography is starting to inform your ideas now. Have you got any work experience that might help you? So have you done anything in the past related to photography that might be helpful for us to know about? Have any life experiences influenced your decisions to apply for this course? And what skills do you have that make you perfect for this course? Those could be personal skills, interpersonal skills. Those could also be technical skills. They could also be collaborative skills. Any questions? Here is my email. I'm really looking forward to seeing your applications, and I really hope you will apply. We love a really diverse cohort of students to apply for the course, and from home to international students. And this is my email, v.ahrens, Ahrens, @arts.ac.uk. Please just drop me a line if you have any questions that I haven't answered in this virtual open day for you, and I'd be happy to talk you through anything in real life as well. For general inquiries, just write to lcc.contact@arts.ac.uk. For anything related to accommodation, you have the email there. For student support, for scholarships and fees, and for any inquiries around your admissions. Thank you so much for listening, and I really hope to see you on the course soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.